With the coming launch of Visions of Eternity and the recent quick play beta for Fractals in full effect, we have seen some interesting developments with the in-game LFG and where it can be expanded. When talking about the quick play event, I did talk about the potential of a queuing system to be implemented into in-game Fractal content and even 10-man strike and raid content. That's not what this video is about. However, this video is about raid rewards. One of the biggest complaints that I've had about Wing 8 is that the raid reward structure had not been touched at all. Magnetite shards have no real use outside of material boxes or Mystic Clover conversions. Legendary Insights only have one sync that is a weekly heroes banner, which is basically useless and not worth doing. So this video is my open discussion and my thoughts on what I would want to see with a raid rewards restructure. Ideally to incentivize the continued involvement of existing raiders while incentivizing the player base to continue raiding after completing the Envoy and Coalescence collections for legendary gear. In short, I want to make raiding great again. And we are going into Silhouette's magical world here where anything is possible, so bear that in mind and feel free to write in the comment section in support or against my suggestions. Largely the video is made for community discussion, and as an Arenanet partner, this video will at minimum be scrutinized to ensure that I am being a good boy. So your suggestions in the comments section might actually be seen by somebody of some importance, able to enact the changes you would like to see. Some of my reward suggestions may seem far-fetched or unrealistic, and I want to say that Arenanet has recently set a precedent for giving big value rewards. The Fractal Incursion event rewards legendary gloves for free. Additionally, the time-limited event that we just went through had a universal legendary starter kit, which were previously locked behind the mini X-Packs Wizards Vault. So when I suggest these things, I feel like they are realistic given the right price. Now, as it stands, in raids, you can get 36 legendary insights per week. You get 15 from Heart of Thorns raids, 10 from Path of Fire raids, 3 from Janthier Wilds raids, and 1 from weekly EOD strikes, with the addition of 5 from End of Dragon Strike CMs and OLC CM, and 2 from the Secrets of the Obscure CM strike missions. This doesn't mean a whole lot since very few players actually max these out. HTCM as well as Ceres CM are largely skipped. Wing 8 is largely skipped by many of the casual raiders alongside Wings 5 and 6. So let's say the average LI gain of the involved raider is around 20 LI per week by completing the easier raid content and ignoring the more involved raid content. So let's say instead of weekly raids, they allow us to do daily raids, which is my first suggestion. So do 20 LI times 7, which is 140 LI per week. Now I want to caveat this. This is a harder change to make because of the Envoy collection, and that is built in with time gates in mind. So in short, a daily reset with this many LI sources would mean that people would complete entire Envoy armor sets in like 2 weeks of daily full raid clears. And while I don't really feel like that is a problem, I do think that Arenanet feels that that's a problem. So perhaps there would be some kind of currency conversion involved, meaning you would get into currency hell, where you have insights and divinations and everything else. And I don't want to add more currencies to the game, but I also don't suggest adjusting recipes in their current state, which would fuck people over who are like halfway through their collections. So this change would require more thought. However, I do think daily raid resets needs to happen. Perhaps LI is awarded once per week, with legendary divinations awarded on subsequent clears for that week, with LI converting into LD on a 7x ratio. For simplicity's sake, I'll refer to these conversions and these prices being related to legendary insights, but understand that this can mean that these reward costs are legendary divinations or some other intermediary currency, which would become a fractional legendary insight currency. I know it's kind of complicated. It's currency hell. I don't like it, but it's probably the best way of implementing the change from weekly to daily without completely bricking all of the old collections that require legendary insights. Maybe somebody better at math or better at game design would have a better solution, but that's what I came up with. So let's say, just for the sake of this video, you are getting 140 legendary insights or legendary dingle dongle currency per week as an average. What rewards would we spend them on? Now, the rewards that come to mind are as follows. First thing on my list is gifts of exploration for Corteria, for Heart of Thorns, or for Path of Fire. Core, HOT, and POF are the only expansions without repeatable exploration, and attaching an arbitrary cost to a singular gift of exploration allows players to complete multiple Gen 1 and Gen 2 legendary weapons without needing to create a new character. As it stands now, creating a new character and doing core map comp is the only way to get these gifts, which is kind of janky, and it's part of the reason why I have an insane amount of level 80 characters that have 100% map comp. I would say these gifts should cost 140 Li. The logic behind this is the average time it takes to complete Corteria is around 15 to 20 hours of focused gameplay, with speedruns being as low as 8 hours. The average static raid group can full clear raids in like 2 to 3 hours, factoring in group building times. The 140 Li would take a similar amount of playtime as a full exploration. In fact, it's only half as efficient, since you would only get 1 per 140 Li as opposed to 2 per the 20 hours of playtime. The next reward is relic selection boxes. These exist already in the form of reward tracks, so instead of going and doing a reward track in World vs. World or SPVP, you should be able to trade Li for it. This gives players another avenue of getting these relics without having to partake in a game mode they're not interested in. I would say that in-game raid content is comparable to World vs. World and SPVP in terms of time dedication and commitment that these PvE players have, and these boxes could be something like 40 Li each. Mystic Clovers, pretty straightforward. Mystic Clovers are used in legendaries. They're account bound, and to avoid making the Mystic Coin useless, you could make these conversions pretty pricey. I'd say like 10 Li each, so per week a max of like 14 to 15 for your average raider if they were to do a straight conversion. Now here's one that I feel strongly about: Black Lion Statuettes. Black Lion Statuettes are a unique currency awarded from Black Lion keys. These statuettes are a pity mechanic for a lot of Black Lion exclusive skins. Having these available for Li would allow players who are barred from gambling due to country restrictions, or who are just adverse to using cash shops in general, to access some of these exclusive skins. I would say something like 10 Li per Black Lion statuette is fair. Considering most skins cost like 40 statuettes, it would ensure regular raiding to unlock some of these sets from the vendor. Here's another good one: Runes of Holding. Another biggie. These are only achieved from convergent CMs and of course from gambling from the Sandstorm vendor. These Runes of Holding are super valuable, but more so they are only really used in crafting high slot bags. So if you want to get bag slots that are larger than 20 slots, you need crafting recipes that use Runes of Holding. These costs associated with these bags right now make them 1,000% not worth doing. However, if Runes of Holding had another acquisition method through either Li or through magnetite shards, it would encourage players to actually get max bag slot bags. Now this one's a little bit different. I say Icy and Mystic Runestones. So Icy and Mystic Runestones, once again, they're used in legendary crafting. Literally every single legendary. They cost 100 gold for each legendary, and it is a fixed cost that you cannot avoid. And having these cost like 7 Li each, meaning like 20 per week at 140 Li, would incentivize the people who are crafting these legendaries to do raids. Now this next one is spicy. This is World vs. World and PvP reward track potions. Now you used to get these from World vs. World dailies or SPVP dailies, and you could stack them up. However, I don't really think Arenanet would actually do this, but let me make my case. For the most part, this would open up raids to being a hyper flexible currency. It takes a total of 80 of these potions to complete an entire reward track, and it could be priced to decentivize their purchase. So let's say they're priced to like 70 LI each. This would still encourage people to go out and do the reward tracks themselves in the PvP and World vs. World game modes, but it would also give the option to opt out of PvP or World vs. World if they were a hardcore raider or if they just really don't like that content type. Some of these things I would avoid putting too much time into would be homestead stuff. I know some of you guys might really like homesteads, but the reason I say this is that there is very little overlap between people who are interested in raiding and people who are interested in homesteads. Most of the raiders I know do not give two shits about homesteading, so maybe having some things for magnetite would be alright, but it would not be a primary appeal. This is where I turn this conversation over to you guys, because I really would love to hear what items you think would be valuable in a raid vendor. What can we sink our LI on? These are things that came to mind for me and things that would interest me, but I am not all knowing. So what would you like to see in this raid vendor, this hypothetical land? Anything is possible. What would you like to see? And maybe, just maybe, when Visions of Eternity comes out, you might see the items you want in this raid vendor. With that, I want to thank you for watching. A big thanks to all of my subscribers and a special thanks to all of my members who support the channel. Make sure you join the Discord. Make sure you join all of the giveaways that I do on the Discord. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.